Welcome to the Seriously podcast. I'm your host, Annalise Gann. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the Seriously podcast, where we make light of serious conversations with really interesting people. Lauren Dunn is the breakout star of MAFS Australia Season 11. If you watched MAFS, you'd know that Lauren is not only beautiful, funny and opinionated, she's also a successful marketing and PR consultant in the food industry, as well as an avid cook. With hundreds of thousands of social media followers and recent overnight fame, I had so many questions for Lauren, so I can't wait for you to hear our chat. Here she is, everyone, the iconic Lauren Dunn. Welcome back to the Seriously podcast. I'm your host, Annalise Gann, and this week we have MAFS royalty, Lauren Dunn.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that we get to finally have a chat over a glass of red.
Me too. It's obligatory, really, isn't it? A glass of red.
It is. It certainly is. Now, you're this year's MAFS breakout star.
Oh, thank you.
You've done so well, and I've known you for a few years, but honestly, you have just blown up. And I'm so happy and proud for you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, how did the opportunity come up for you? Did you audition or were you scouted?
Okay, so this is a wild story. So I was scouted, and so what initially happened was, I can't remember the exact time, but prior to MAFS, I want to say like at least 6 months before, I was approached by a casting agent on Instagram saying that there was a new show coming out. They didn't have a name for it. Dating concept, and they wanted to fly me to Sydney so they could meet with their executive producers. And I said, if it's MAFS, I'm not interested. And they're like, no, it's not MAFS. We don't know what we're calling it yet. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go. All my friends lived in Sydney. And the bad thing about this is like I was kind of back with my ex-boyfriend, but kind of in the grey area. Like we weren't 100% back together, but I wasn't 100% single. But I told him, I was like, this is what's happened. I'm going to go get essentially the free trip to Sydney. And he was like, okay, cool, whatever. Like I wasn't planning on actually doing it. Anyway, so I go and I meet with these executive producers of the production company Endemol Shine. And the show that they were essentially scouting me for was called Love Triangle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we do the interview. It's hilarious. They've got their EP of Channel 9 in there. They've got everyone in there. You know, it was great. It was hilarious. We're all laughing the whole time. And then by the end of it, they said, look, you know, what we'd really like you for is MAFS. And I just said, absolutely not. Like, I've got way too many skeletons in the closet. I don't need a closet. I need a goddamn storage unit. Like, I just know. Like, I just know the ins and outs of how it works, the way they can make, quote unquote, make you look blah, blah, blah. I was like, no way. Anyway, so that happens. And then, you know, there's no way. Come back to Perth and then end up breaking up with my ex-partner permanently, and they are still kind of in the DMs. And I just said to a few of my close mates, what do you think about this? And a few of the close ones, like Taylor James, who you know, my friend Gemma Oldfield in Sydney, who's a PR guru, and, you know, a couple of other girls, Lucy, they all said, fuck it, do it. Just do it. Like, what have you got to lose? It's also a really good way to put the nail in the coffin for your last relationship, which I kind of kept going back and forth to, and it just wasn't a good situation for either of us. And I really kind of looked at it as, if I do this, it's a real pivotal moment in my life, and it was, and I'm really glad that I did it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So can I ask, you get cast. The casting directors go, okay, Lauren, you're getting married. What was your reaction and what was your wedding day like? Like from your perspective?
Yeah, so my reaction, right, so I started the process. I'd done all the psych tests, all that kind of stuff. They really fast-tracked me through it because I was quite last minute. As I said, I wasn't interested in doing it, and I was very wary about the whole thing. And so I got to the point where I met with one of the experts on Zoom, which was Alessandra, and we had a great chat. And then I just had this gut feeling. I kind of knew from the beginning that it didn't matter how I did on my psych test or what my interviews were like, they wanted me. They'd wanted me for a long time. And I think it's just my personality that they're like, this person's a nut job. Like, should be make great reality TV. So then I get the call saying, Lauren, you know, letting you know, we found your match. And I just remember going, oh, okay. And the lady was like, that's not usually the reaction we get. Like, we get excitement. I was like, yeah, like I'm still really unsure. I don't know if I want to do this. Anyway, fast forward to the wedding day, and we start filming at like, I don't know, like 5:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember the first scene, it was like they barge into the room and it's my bridesmaid, my best, what's it called? Maid of honor, best maid.
Yeah,
Lindley and I, and we're in bed together because she'd come all the way to Queensland with me, wherever it was.
I remember that scene.
Yeah, and she gets in. We gotten pissed as parrots the night before, and she's sleeping in bed with me. And our call time was 7 a.m. So they barge in with cameras at 5:30 a.m. And that's why we kind of both sat up and were like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? And they made it out like I was running late for the wedding, but I wasn't. That was 5:30 in the morning.
Oh my
and
God.
so she was like sick. She was hungover. We told them she had a migraine. I was like, guys, what the fuck? Like, you can't barge in here. Like, what if we were naked? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, barging with the male camera crew. And so I was really pissed off, and it kind of looked like we were late.
I thought you were late.
No. And so you see the scenes of like all my friends like looking at their watches, like what's going on. That was because they had me sitting in the limo waiting to go in for like 3 hours.
What?
Yeah. And
Are you serious?
And that's the thing. So like with these shows, right, it makes it look like I was like, nothing is on your time. You are on their production schedule because every minute costs them thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So do you really think they're going to let you run late for anything? Like, you are on production schedule. You would know, like, minute by minute.
Yes.
Second by second. We have no authority over what goes on.
Yes.
So I remember watching that going, those fuckers. But anyway, it made for good TV. It also made like, I'm quite erratic, so it suited. But the wedding day itself was awesome.
Okay.
We had a great time. I met Jono. We clicked instantly.
Yes.
I liked him. He liked me. We were pretty liquored up by the end of it. So we had a really, really good time. It wasn't until the next morning when I woke up and was like in the middle of nowhere in this house and was like, what have I done? Like the reality really set in. And Jono was really good. He was actually quite supportive. He could tell that I was kind of freaking out. But I think the person that I saw on the wedding day was drastically different to the next morning because we had our friends and family around us. We were laughing. It was jolly. It was merry. It was a lot of adrenaline with all these cameras in our faces and all this stuff going on. And the next morning was just him and I. When I woke up, I thought, oh, I don't feel that same spark. And that's when it really freaked me out a little bit.
So that set in a few days later?
Well, literally the next morning it set in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to ask, this is a bit off topic.
Yeah.
The fake tan and the wedding dress.
I know.
Is
iconic. That was real.
That was that real?
So that moment, they made it look like Jono was waiting at the aisle for me while I was fake tanning.
Okay.
That moment happened at like 6 a.m.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, they're so smart.
They're amazing, and I love it. And I'm here for it. I loved seeing
It
that.
was such a funny
great
wedding.
episode.
Like,
yeah.
it was so good, yeah.
It added to the chaos. But to be fair, it was chaotic.
Yes.
But a lot of the chaotic moments don't make sense in terms of like showing an audience. So they did reflect how chaotic it was with clever editing. So that's why a lot of people say, oh, the edit was bad, the edit. Yeah, they edit. Of course they have to. It's a television show. But they edit to suit what the narrative is. And the narrative is that I was chaotic as fuck. It was wild. Like, so that scene, I remember being fully ready and we had like an hour before we needed to be there. And so I was like to Lindley, oh, should we just like rub some tan on? And she was like, okay. So we did. I feel like the entire country was like.
I feel like you're the first bride in history to do that.
I know, right? And
Very
so
brave.
It was brave. But then I remember like one of the execs at Channel 9 when who monitors Twitter or X as the night rolls on, as it was episode aired, and it was like, you know, my name was trending and all the comments were so wild. And there was a lot of like comparisons to the Kath and Kim scene where I think it was Kath who wears like a one-shouldered dress and she's like, I forgot, I fake turned the wrong arm. And then my friend Nathan, who's in a Kath and Kim fan page with like hundreds of thousands of members, everyone was doing like these memes like side by sides. And I was like, that is iconic and that is an honor to me.
That is.
I was so stoked.
Being compared to Kath and Kim is the biggest honour of Australian culture.
I agree. And do you know what one of the most wild things was? Like on Twitter, people were like, Lauren doesn't need to get married. She needs AA. Lauren heard MAFS and just heard like open bar. Like all these tweets were wild. And I was like, you know what? I was sober the entire day. We didn't drink a single thing. I got one little sip of champagne when we did a toast in the morning. We didn't have a drink until like 6 p.m.
Really?
No. And then and so the whole day we're dead sober. But the adrenaline really does something to you.
Yeah, it would kick in. And then you could have like 1 or 2 drinks. You'd probably be drunk.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I love my wine, right? Like, it would take me a lot more than 1 or 2 drinks to get drunk. And in these situations, especially at the dinner parties, I'd have 2 or 3 wines and I'd feel pissed.
Yes.
That's why they really honour you about you drinking.
Right.
Yeah, they cut you off real quick.
Okay. Interesting.
But there were times where I'm like, I'm not saying another word until someone brings me a wine. And they're like, Lauren, just have a water. I'm like, no,
Oh my god.
not one more word. I was like, this is going to be a fucking boring dinner party if I'm not speaking.
In saying that, you know, the people listening right now, there'd be a lot of MAFS fans, myself included. What are some things that the audience would never know that goes on behind the scenes?
There's so many things. So
that you can talk about.
Yeah, so many things. So when you arrive to the dinner parties, it looks very seamless. Like everyone arrives one by one, they go into the dinner party and that's it. We all arrive to where the set is, and then they have these tents set up. So each couple is in a different tent, so we can't talk to each other because the point of that is so that we don't have conversations that then when we see each other on camera, it doesn't align. It doesn't make sense to the viewer. Like, well, what are they talking about? Have they already spoken before? So we're actually not meant to speak to each other. We're not meant to have each other's numbers. We're not meant to hang out at all off camera because if things happen off camera, then when they're filming us, it doesn't make sense, right? So we, of course, did hang out off camera and we did speak, but some of us were better at picking up conversation where we left off on camera and carrying on. Some of us weren't. So it was a big point of contention for production, and rightly so. But when we went to these dinner parties, they kind of put us in these tents. And then each couple goes in couple by couple, depending on the drama. So the drama's all about you. You'll go in very last so that each couple goes in and they all talk. So they're all talking about you. It swells. If you go in first, you know you're boring.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go in first, you know you're boring. Like, and then you know you're interesting if you're sat in the middle of a dinner party. So the tables, like everyone's sitting there, right? And they put the name tags in according to what the drama is. If you're at the center of the dinner table, the drama's about you.
So where were you most of the time?
Every single week, I was in the center of the dinner table with Jack every week. Without fail.
That's
I
perfect.
think there was 1 week I was slightly to the right.
And Jack.
Slightly to the right. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to get a fucking break tonight. And then when I wouldn't speak or say anything, everyone's like, Lauren, what are you going to say? I'm like, well, when I talk, it's a problem. But then when I don't talk, you guys are like, what are you going to say? I'm like, just give Loza a break tonight.
Can I ask, in terms of like the dinner parties?
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are from MAFS or have been like on reality TV.
Yeah.
And I've heard on the grapevine that they film at like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Easily.
What?
Yeah. So we can
So
film.
do you guys get to eat?
Yeah. So they feed.
Okay.
So what happens is they film like what's called getting ready. So they come to our hotel room. They give us the day before. They'll give us like a run sheet, like a schedule. So say for example, my getting ready started at midday. So I had to have hair, makeup, everything done, which we'd go do by ourselves. By the way, they don't provide hair and makeup or wardrobe or anything.
Really?
We'd sneak off to like hair and makeup artists that would do. Shout out to Fatima and Wally, the girls that do my makeup and hair every week.
I was going to say, you looked amazing.
And they did it like free of charge,
Yeah.
like just they were like amazing.
Yes.
They had us snatched every week. They did me, Tori, Eden, Sarah and Jade most weeks.
Yeah, you guys look so
yeah,
good.
we
That
were on
makes
top
sense.
of it. And so anyway, so we would do that and then they'd film us getting ready. So you see the scenes of us putting a bit of lippy on, doing the earrings. That's called the getting ready scenes. And then we would wait and then couple by couple you get sent off. So normally at about 4 o'clock you then get chauffeured to where the dinner party is. And then some nights we'd finish at 10 if there was really good drama and it was really popping off. 10 o'clock, all right guys, cut, we're done. And you'd be like, fuck yeah, that's amazing. But then you've got to go out and voxy, which is like your piece to camera.
Yes.
Some nights, if we weren't arguing with each other and there wasn't drama, one night we sat there till about 4 a.m. And by the time everyone had finished voxing, some people were coming out at daylight when the sun was coming up. So I was pretty adamant that I would not be voxing until 6 a.m.
Wow.
It was gnarly. It was full on.
Was there any points where you're just like, I just want to argue to get this over with?
100%.
Did you do that?
Absolutely. It's a good
Okay.
question. So I remember one night.
Because I would have been like,
Yeah.
see ya. Like,
So once
yeah.
we kind of cottoned on to how it all evolved, I remember one night being like, as we were walking, all right, guys, you guys know what you need to do. We all know what we're all thinking. Like, we know what the drama is this week. We all text each other behind the producers' backs. We all know what's going on. Someone fucking bring it up. Let's just get this done so we can get in and get out, essentially. Because there were nights that we'd all sit around and we'd laughing and like having a really genuinely good time. Like, we're all human beings. We're not just there to fight with each other. Like, we're not savages. Like, we can just be civil and enjoy ourselves. And we really did sometimes. But there was a couple of times where the producers would come out and be like, guys, this is fucking boring. Talk about what's going on and talk about it now. And rightly so. Like, you know, people are watching it for what's going on in our relationships. They're not watching it to find out what nightclub Sarah and I went out on the weekend. Like, that doesn't exist. All that exists is what is on camera, and that people need to understand, like, it is a television show. And there were people on our cast that understood the assignment and followed suit, and there were people that absolutely did not, and it made it difficult.
Talking about Sarah, so like the real love story for you two was finding your friendship.
Yeah,
you guys are so gorgeous, and you're like the most beautiful best friends I've ever seen.
Yeah, we ride hard for each other. Like, it's pretty. The thing is, it's like, it's a special kind of friendship because no one else, unless they've been on the show, MAFS, specifically MAFS. I mean, reality TV, yes, but specifically MAFS, they can't relate to what we've been through, and we really just had each other's backs hardcore. And like, we were obviously friends really close with Eden as well, and close with Tori, but Eden used things that we told her to kind of get a leg up on the show to try and create drama. Sarah and I know things about each other that could fucking bury the other person, and we didn't even need to say, oh, obviously don't tell anyone. We are genuinely actually friends, you know. And that's one thing I'll say about Jack, right? Jack knew things about Jono that came out at the very end because Tori decided to bring it up that could have ruined Jono from day dot. Jono continuously threw Jack under the bus, and do you think he ever wavered? Not once. And that's one thing about him that I'm like, that's really impressive, because you could have turned around and be like, well, I know this about you, and buried him, but he didn't. And Sarah and I had this friendship where we were genuine friends, not TV friends, but like real friends, and we had each other's backs no matter what. And if you can get through a situation like MAFS as friends and stay loyal to each other, then that's a pretty impressive friendship. And since filming Rap, we haven't spent more than 3 weeks apart from each other. She lives in Sydney and I live in Perth.
Yeah. You can tell.
Yeah.
And I think like going on TV is such a big experience. Like having that core trust. Because I've done little stints of TV, nothing like MAFS, but people do just do things for camera.
100% they
and
do.
It's actually shocking.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't believe you would do that.
Yeah. And like,
So
I get
that's good.
that like between some dynamics, but I felt like the dynamic that Sarah, Eden and I had, I thought that was unbreakable.
Yes.
Eden obviously proved that to be different, but Sarah and I, there's nothing, like, you know.
Are you still friends with Eden?
No, Eden and I don't have a relationship. I understand where Eden came from with saying that stuff about Sarah. I think Jaden essentially kind of said, look, producers were saying you guys are boring. You either talk about problems in your relationship or you can fuck off, essentially. And I know that Jaden turned around and was like, well, we know something juicy about Sarah. Bring it up, or like, I'm done with you, because he wanted to stay on the show. Eden was happy to go home and continue their relationship. Back in Goldie, where they both live, they live 5 minutes from each other, she was like, I'm so happy, I found my person. Let's just leave the show and go be happy together. And he didn't want to. He wanted to be on the show. So he kind of pressured her into saying, you need to say this stuff about Sarah, otherwise I'm not going to be with you, essentially. That's my understanding of what went on. And so when you see these scenes of Eden talking about how anxious and upset she is, she wasn't anxious and upset, from my understanding again, because she had this information about Sarah. She went and hung out with Sarah the next day after that information. She didn't care, because she's a friend. She was a good friend, a really good friend, actually. She's a good friend to both of us.
Yes.
She felt pressured to say it by Jaden, and she chose Jaden, as she should, because it's not friends at first sight, it's married at first sight, and she was in love with him. So she chose to do what she thought was right for her relationship, and she did, and it was fucked. It still doesn't excuse it. I would never do that to someone. What she did was fucked. However, she was doing it for the right reasons, like for her man. And then look what happened. He dumped her as soon as filming stopped. So, and I always said to Sarah, I was like, I feel bad for Eden, because I know that's how it went. Very certain that's how it went down. And, you know, but it's gotten ugly between the three of us since filming's wrapped. Eden's very much taken the stance of Tim and Jono's side.
Okay.
Very, very much a guy's gal.
Okay.
And there's no girls
Loyalty.
Nah, not at all.
That's sad.
I think it's sad too because I really did love Eden.
She seems nice.
She's a really lovely person. I can't say that she's not, but her behaviour was has been very pick me. I thought that she would, I don't know, just ride for her friends a bit harder, but whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I've got Sarah and I don't really need Eden.
Yeah.
She's got Jono and Tim, so
Yes. You can't be friends with everyone.
you choose who you'd rather out of those people. I know who I'd rather. I think I know who the rest of the world would rather. No shade.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of my chat with Lauren Dunn. To hear part 2, click follow and you'll be the first to be notified on when it is released. Thanks so much for listening to the Seriously podcast.